The thing that you are the most afraid of is going to become second nature to you because you have let go of these old stories and you have adopted new ones. And these new ones are stories that you can and that you're capable. So you're not just starting just like everybody else who's learning to drive. You're learning to drive with this iceberg underneath of fear. And I get that. And so allowing the process to take the time that it needs is okay. Because now I'm like here on the other side driving and, feeling so free and feeling so me. Like, I don't even know how I didn't drive before. What else can I do? Once I got over the fear of driving, I was like, if I can drive, which was my biggest phobia in the world, I can do anything. Hello and welcome back. My name is Brenda. Today, I'm going to be sharing something super vulnerable and something that I'm like literally shaking to talk about. But I used to have a huge anxiety and fear of driving, and I did not get my license until I was 28. I was 28 years old this year when I got my license, and I want to talk about it. So let's talk about it. I think this is one of those things, just like any fear or phobia, irrational fear, even though I know the fear of driving, I think is so rational. But still, for me, it was an irrational fear because it was something that I wanted to do. And yet it was something that I just did not think I was capable of. I have two children, and for the first about 5 years of their life, I did not drive. We took the bus everywhere. We went out on the weekends, and I just made that enough. I was comfortable with being, the passenger. And as much as I sometimes now miss being like passenger princess, it is so different to be behind the wheel of your own car and to be behind the wheel of your life. I want to talk about like how I did it and the energetics behind how I am now driving every single day, how it's become something that I love, something that I look forward to, something that I'm excited to do. Whereas before, like it wasn't like just my biggest fear. It was like my biggest phobia. My grandmother never drove. My aunt, I learned that this year, my aunt, two of them actually never drove as well. And so it's super interesting to see this like story in my lineage of women who were afraid and women who took the back seat and women who had to rely on others their entire life. I wasn't able to just get up and go, and it created a lot of inferiority within me. It created a lot of this weird doubt and shame that I carried around because I wasn't capable, or I thought. And I told myself for years that I wasn't capable. Number one, you are more capable than you think. You are more capable than you think. When I was living my life with this super fear, this super like anxiety that I felt around driving, I genuinely felt incapable. And just to like, not to throw shade, but to remind you, like, grandmothers drive, boys drive, teens drive, grandmothers drive. So I just like, number one, I had to remind myself I am more capable than I think, and you are more capable than you think. Number two, exposure therapy works. It took me years to get to the point where I was even like driving on a city street because it was such a big fear. Like, if you're afraid of dogs, you're not going to go to a barking dog, right? You're going to like start with a puppy. So if you have a fear of driving and you have an anxiety of driving, you're not going to start with driving on a main road. You're going to start with like turning the car on, learning the controls, learning the buttons, watching some videos, asking questions when you're sitting in the passenger seat. Like, ask questions. Say, hey, why did you make that turn like that? Or, how do you park like this? How do you parallel park? How do you do this? How do you do whatever? And so you ask these questions rather than thinking that you're just going to figure it all out while you're behind the wheel. No, you take slow and steady steps. And so that's where I go to number 3, one small drive around the block daily. And that's what I started to do. I started literally going to empty parking lots or early in the morning or really late at night. People tell you like driving at night is, difficult or different, but honestly, driving at night was so worth it for me and was so much easier. The first time that I drove on the freeway, it was at night, and I don't know, just kind of like a random tip, but driving on off hours, driving when there's nobody else around, early in the morning or late at night, or, random times in the middle of the day, and just going around the parking lot, going to Costco. Okay, this is literally what I would do. I would go to Costco when it was, closed. I would go to like back roads, like, country road, take me home to a place. I would take old, back roads. They're usually a lot bigger. There's no stop signs or stoplights. Small and steady wins the race. Small little practices. Again, learning your controls. How do you turn the car on? How do you turn the car off? That was like genuinely, I didn't even know how to get the car started. I didn't even know how to get the car going. And think about how scary that was for me as a mom, thinking to myself, like, yes, I can call an Uber. Yes, I can call an ambulance, but I can't just get my kids in the car and go. Even if I have to like grab someone's car and just like, hey, I need to borrow this car. I need to take the kids to the, the hospital or something. Like, I couldn't even do that. And so now I notice like how proud I am for taking it slow and steady and realizing that, like, yes, this was a big fear of mine. This isn't something that I was going to just like get over within a day. If this was a deep-seated fear, this deep-seated, rooted into my bones, into my cellular memory, into my ancestry, like where my grandmother never drove and my aunts never drove, and I have this like fear in my body and in my lineage, it's not going to take just a few drives around the block. And if you're like me and you have like this genuine fear and this, driving anxiety, like, I know you get it. I know that it's going to take time. And that's all I'm here to tell you. Like, allow it to take time. Number 4, visualization and joy maxing. Okay, I wrote those down together. So visualization, I would visualize myself going on a road trip. I'd visualize myself driving down an old country road. I'd visualize myself driving my kids to the beach, or, driving us to, I don't know, the zoo. I'd visualize myself picking up a friend who like always picked me up and always gave me a ride. I'd visualize myself, picking my friends up and just genuinely being behind the wheel. So, and by joy maxing, I mean like I would just flood my brain with these visualizations and these images that would give me joy and bring me joy. And instead of visualizing these fears, which I was so used to, and I, came so naturally to me to have like, what is it called? Irrational fears or intrusive thoughts. I would get a lot of intrusive thoughts around driving, a lot of intrusive thoughts around like how I would hurt myself or how I would hurt another person. And so instead, doing the exact opposite. I started to visualize the joyful experiences that I would get to have because of driving. I started to visualize the joy that I would get from picking my friends up. I started to visualize the joy that I would feel with the wind in my hair and just having like a little iced coffee and, picking my kids up from camp that I dropped them off at. I started to genuinely visualize like the joy and maxing, like joy maxing, feeling as good as it can feel. Like, no, driving is going to be great. Driving is going to be so much fun. Okay. Number 5, small acts of bravery. So again, I was talking about how I was so afraid of literally just driving around the block that for me, small acts of bravery wasn't, hey, I'll drive. Small acts of bravery was, show me how to turn on this car. Small acts of bravery was genuinely watching YouTube videos and taking notes and allowing myself to become a student. Okay. Number 6, calm instructors / driving alone. I genuinely recommend that once, this is like further down the line, once you have your permit, I recommend driving alone. Driving alone and allowing yourself to make mistakes and to, brake a little too hard and, park funky and fix it 5 times. And the same, and with the same boat is like before that, having calm driving instructors was probably the one thing that made like the biggest difference, because there was certain people that like I could not drive with. There was certain people that stressed me out. Like, sheesh, that gave me driving anxiety. And so don't drive with people who yell at you. Don't drive with people who are going to stress you out or make you like nervous and anxious. Pick people who feel safe. And also, like, let's say, your dad drives a truck and you're like, well, I'm not getting behind the wheel of a truck. Ask like a trusted friend of yours who drives like a small little beater car. Ask them if you could like turn the car on and off, drive around the block a little bit, if they can practice with you, if they can drive with you a little bit. Because having calm instructors, having a car that you're not too too nervous to like mess up, or that you're not too nervous to drive, like it's not some huge truck or some huge van or something that's like super fancy or old or special. I got a ton of practice in different cars that were friends who I knew were just calm. They weren't driving instructors. They weren't people that were like trained to teach me how to drive. They had just been driving for years, and they were people that I trusted, who were calm and peaceful and weren't going to judge me and were going to allow me to take as many times as I needed, or, turn left. Like, I used to drive around with a friend of mine in this empty parking lot, like at a lodge. And we used to literally practice doing right turns and left turns. I would literally go in circles around this parking lot doing U-turns and left turns and right turns. And then, imagine that there's cars right here and park here. And okay, now back out. Like, and there was nobody there. And it wasn't some test or an instructor. It was literally just a trusted friend, like, who I loved and who I knew, trusted me and was willing to like take it slow and steady with me. Number 7, also, listening to music in the car while you're driving is the number one thing that you should be visualizing when you're visualizing. Okay. back to number 7, allowing it to take years or months. If you have, and this literally goes for anything, like this video applies to any fear or phobia that you have. So allowing it to take years and or months. If you have a deep-seated fear, it's not going to go away in a sitting. If you have, if like trigger warning, but if you've struggled with like, ED, you're not going to get healthy after eating, one good meal, high calorie meal. You're going to get healthy over slowly and repeatedly changing your ideas, your beliefs about yourself, your beliefs about, food. And in my case, like driving. And so again, letting it take months and like in the steps, like allowing the steps to take you months. So you get in the car and you learn to turn on the car and you learn the controls, and you've been watching your videos about like, how you're going to shift and, which pedal is the brake and which pedal is the gas. And you're going to learn all of these things. And that's going to be fine. And then you're going to, start driving around the block. And then after you learn to drive around the block, you're going to start learning out, how to, park, right? You're going to start learning how to park. And you do this slowly and incrementally, and you allow it to take you time. And you don't shame yourself or, belittle yourself or put yourself down or make yourself not feel capable. You are learning a skill and you're starting at 0. You're starting at like ground, like below the ground. So you're not just starting just like everybody else who's learning to drive. You're learning to drive with this iceberg underneath of fear. And I get that. And so allowing the process to take the time that it needs is okay. Because now I'm like here on the other side driving and, feeling so free and feeling so me. Like, I don't even know how I didn't drive before. I'm such a free girly, free spirit, like spontaneous kind of person. And this driving gives that to me in such a different way that I did not get to experience before I was driving. Okay. Number 8, we already touched on it, but it was letting go of stories that are no longer yours, or letting go of stories that you don't want anymore. Like, I'm not talking to the person that is perfectly okay never driving a day in their life. I'm talking to the person that's like, no, I want to drive. I want to get better at this. I want to be like you, right? Like, I want to, have had that fear, and I want to push past it, and I want to see myself on the other side, driving my car, picking my friends up. And even if it's just driving myself down to the bank or driving myself to the grocery store, or, going on a small little solo trip and not needing to order an Uber or to check what the bus routes are. Those are the stories that you need to pick up. Those are the stories that you now need to let go of the fear and the intrusive thoughts. Let's let this plane pass. To get over the fear of driving, you are going to have to let go of the intrusive thoughts and these, irrational fears, and replace them with stories that you're excited about, stories that you're looking forward to. Like again, taking yourself on a little solo trip, or being able to go somewhere without having to, need someone else, just you. And so it's not like you're not going to have these fears anymore, because every time I drive, I still feel fear. And I'm sure everyone who drives does, but it's like less and less. And I'm telling you, one day, the thing that you're most afraid of is going to become second nature. The thing that you are the most afraid of is going to become second nature to you because you have let go of these old stories and you have adopted new ones. And these new ones are stories that you can and that you're capable. And when you adopt these new stories, the life and the doors that open up for you are immense. Now I'm able to go on these like 4-hour road trips where I go visit friends that I would have had to have someone drop me off, drive me all the way there. I would have had to take, BARTs and trains and buses. And now I'm just like listening to Country Road, Take Me Home all the way there. Not all the way there. My music choice is very eclectic. So it's like that and a mix of like 40 other genres. But it's like I'm finally able to exist in the reality of my biggest fear. And I'm here and I made it. And so it's like, okay, what else can I do? Once I got over the fear of driving, I was like, if I can drive, which was my biggest phobia in the world, I can do anything. Hence, posting videos on YouTube. By letting go of stories that are no longer yours and adopting new ones and more exciting ones, it doesn't automatically get rid of your fear, but you do it anyways, right? It's like bravery is feeling the fear and doing it anyways. So letting go of those old stories doesn't mean that you're no longer going to feel them or think about them. You're just not going to identify with them anymore. And that's the difference. And that's like the key thing that shifted for me is when I let go of the old stories that were no longer serving me, because what I wanted was to drive. Deep down, I knew what I actually wanted was to get over that fear. And so whatever this fear is for you, it might not be driving, it might be whatever, right? Whatever this fear is for you, letting go of those stories and again, picking up new ones that are exciting is where it's at. It's where things change. Number 9, I've got some silly stories for you. So I was so afraid of driving, and one of the biggest reasons is I genuinely struggle with left and right. I've struggled with not knowing left and right ever since I can remember. Like I have this scar, like right here in one of my fingers, on my ring finger. And it's on my left side. And so that's how I used to always tell, like, oh, it's my left hand. I would look left. I would look for my hand, my little scar on my hand, so that I would know what was left or right. And let me tell you what I find so interesting. When I started to drive, I was so scared. Like left and right is the most important thing, right? For driving, I have to know what is left and what is right. And so I am not joking. When I started to drive, I know my left and right now. So the one thing that was stopping me from driving, I learned while driving. Make it make sense, right? And so that's genuinely all I've got for you. I know how it is. I know what it's like to be on the other side and feel like you're never going to make it out, to feel like you're never going to just drive down to the store or you're going to have your license. Like, I've got a license. I've got a whole license and I'm so proud of myself and I feel so free and I feel so autonomous and I feel like myself. And I was so scared of driving because I thought that it wasn't me, that I was never going to drive. And now I feel the most myself doing the one thing I was the most afraid of. And I know that you can do it too. Doing all of these little things are going to get you to that point of facing that fear and coming out on the other side and being like, hey, it actually wasn't so bad. And now this one thing that I was so afraid of is one of my favorite things. Like, Imagine the one thing that you're so afraid of in a year is going to be one of your favorite things to do. Let's like literally just sit here for a moment and visualize yourself living the life that you're so afraid to live, doing the things that you're so afraid to do, whether it be public speaking, whether it be starting a YouTube channel, whether it be opening up, your business or driving a car, like whatever it is. This time next year, not only are you going to be doing that thing, but it is going to be your favorite thing to do. And so it mother frickin' is. I cannot wait for the next video. And I love you all so much with my whole heart and my whole butt. We'll see you next time. Mwah. Bye. Get out there and go drive, baby. Let's end the video with us going somewhere. You've got this. I believe in you. You can do hard things. The one thing that you're so afraid to do is going to become your favorite thing to do. I believe in you. Mwah. Bye.